Throughout the history of music, there have been countless geniuses who, through their art, make us look deeply into our own selves. Undoubtedly, the art of such musicians is often complex and requires reflection. One example of such a musician was the Austrian composer and conductor Gustav Mahler, a great European symphonist on the turn of the 20th century. Mahler was a conductor and composer, but in life he was perceived only as the latter. Starting from the very bottom, working in provincial theatres for years, many of his obstacles on the path to success were caused by his Jewish roots. At the end of the 19th century, Vienna turned more conservative and became a hotbed for anti-Semitism within the German-speaking society. Cosima Wagner, Richard Wagner's second wife, had a considerable influence on the music scene of the time and did much to resist Mahler's success on the base of her fierce anti-Semitic views. Despite this, Mahler still reached the pinnacle of his career and became the director of the well-known Vienna State Opera. As a conductor, Mahler was obsessed with music. He put his whole soul into the performance of other composers' work as if they were his own. He was a ruthless and fanatical perfectionist. During rehearsals with an orchestra, he worked on every phrase and once was even known to repeat a musical fragment up to 80 times until passing out. Thus, the image of Mahler was becoming that of a fanatical tyrant, an uncontrollable man, instilling fear with his attacks of anger, whilst simultaneously showing his musicians great humanity, kindness and sensitivity. Orchestras adored their maestro and were even friends despite his oppressive nature. Yet, Mahler's personality was not best matched to a calm relationship. He inspired either fierce hatred or great love and devotion. Collectively, they felt that Mahler was burning himself. Perhaps that's why he lived so little, only 50 years. The composer himself never compromised, both when he wrote works without the hope of a performance and when he faced indifference and rejection from the opera houses of the day. Mahler's fame as a composer came to him only 50 years after his death. When the world understood the whole depth, grandeur and beauty of Mahler's music, it became quite clear that he belonged among the greatest symphonists of Europe, the likes of Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Bruckner and Strauss. In his music, you can hear the themes of life and death, good and evil. Within it, you feel the desire for a romantic ideal, the search for harmony, and, at the same time, the bitterness of earthly suffering. But the main thing in his music is a man, strong and weak, loving, whilst at the same time suffering. His main works are 10 symphonies, the 10th being unfinished. Mahler incorporated the best of Austro-German symphonic traditions that started with Beethoven and drew to a close the Romantic era. Mahler's work had a great influence on the works of Schoenberg, Verben, Berg, Shostakovich, Hindemith, Stravinsky and Prokofiev. A key influence on Mahler's life was the legendary woman Alma Schindler, who went down in history as a companion to several prominent creative figures. This Viennese beauty, and Europe's most enviable bride, gave her heart to the 50-year-old Mahler, who, at the time, was Vienna's most influential conductor. She was his real muse, inspired by creativity, and accompanied the composer until the end of her life. She sacrificed her own compositional ambitions to be with Gustav, and adapted to the tough rhythm of his life. She led home bookkeeping, and even rewrote some of his scores. In 1907, grief burst into the family, when their 4-year-old daughter Maria died. This event bordered on mysticism, as a few years earlier Gustav had written the vocal cycle Kindertotenlieder, songs on the death of children. Mahler considered himself responsible for this meaningless death. The genial works of Gustav Mahler have passed the most important test of time. Over the past decade, Mahler has become one of the most performed European composers, and his music has become the most important part of the European Philharmonic program.